The state of clan wars right now in the game is frustrating a lot of players, and I'd like to talk about it a little bit and offer up some solutions that might make it more enjoyable for everybody. First of all, let's take a trip down memory lane really quickly. I want to talk about how clan wars used to be. If you can rewind time back a year ago or a year and a half ago when Town Hall 15 was the meta, you will probably remember that tide wars were almost never a thing. You didn't see them very often, and it was honestly a little bit cool to see them when they did happen because they were so rare. And I remember sometimes seeing the tide wars when it wasn't even a perfect war on each side. It was like 92.37% on each side, and it was like what are the chances of that? It was honestly kind of cool to see. Well, fast forward to now, and if you scroll across any Champion 3 to Champion 1 League clan, and even a lot of clans lower than that, and you scroll through their war log, you are bound to see about 50%, probably at least, of their clan war log history is Tide Wars. So what changed? What changed between now and then? Well, at Town Hall 16 with the introduction of the event or the hero equipment, that boosted the offense of the game significantly. Not only did the hero equipment make the heroes so much better than they were previously, but it also made a lot of buffs to things indirectly, like to units and things like that. Like, think of the Fireball Rocket Loon attack right now. The Rocket Loons weren't ever really used before, and with the Fireball now, the synergy between those two things, right? Being able to quickly snipe defenses and direct where your Fireball goes, and it helps speed your Warden charge up a little bit more quickly. Like, that stuff didn't exist. And so because of the introduction of the hero equipment, there are a lot of buffs to not only just the heroes, but to the troops and to the spells and everything themselves, because they get a buff indirectly because of some sort of synergy that I don't know that Supercell really intended or thought about really when they introduced the hero equipment, but it makes everything so much stronger. And the defense just didn't really, like at the dump of Town Hall 16 when it was introduced, offense got bumped up like 10 levels and defense got bumped up like 2 levels. Like with the introduction of like the new defenses and the new levels and things like that, it just didn't keep up with just how powerful the hero equipment was. And so the effect that has on the clan war are several things, and this is where the frustration gets in. So I'd like to talk about why it's frustrating for a little bit of a segment, and then I'd like to talk about what I think the Supercell can do in the future to fix it. So probably the first frustrating thing that people have to deal with now is that because there are so many ties in the game, and I'm just going to scroll through our war log here, it makes it feel like it's a lot less competitive, like the wars don't matter nearly as much, even excluding the ores and that kind of thing. I think it's probably been a few months since I've really had to try hard in a war, because I know that after about 2/3 of our attacks are in, we're already going to have every star that we can get, and my attacks don't matter at that point. And so I just get 1 star on the top couple of bases and just get my rewards and then kind of get on to the next thing. The next thing, and I think this is going to be relatable to the most amount of people and probably the cause of the most amount of frustration as well, and that's going to be the amount of ores that we are allowed to receive. Now, when we tie a war, we get the same amount of ores that we get when we lose a war, right? And so you don't get the extra double amount of ores that you would get when you win. And the biggest issue is the starry ore, right? That's the big bottleneck right now for everybody. And I've got 2 accounts, one where I buy the passes and stuff, and one where it's pretty much free to play for the most part. Every once in a while I'll get something, but on that free to play account, the distance between me maxing out my equipment and the introduction of new equipment is getting further and further because I can't win any wars. Like I literally cannot catch up. I'm falling further behind in maxing my equipment than I am catching up to maxing it all out because of the introduction, like more starry or it being expended to max out your equipment is being introduced into the game than I can even get it fast enough as a free-to-play player. So if you don't spend money on the game, you're getting farther behind than you are catching up because they're releasing a new equipment every 2 or 3 months. And that's one of the frustrating things, right? Because you just like they need to make it so that we can opt in maybe for hard mode or something. Well, that's going to be in my point later. But because there's no starry ore to be had in your daily Legend League hits or in another way that's good, that's consistent, you have to rely on the wars to provide the majority of your starry ore for you. And it just isn't enough. You're only getting, I mean, you don't tie every war, right? But let's say you tie half of your wars. You're only getting 2/3 of the starry ore that you would get if you could win more, right? And so I think that's probably the most frustrating aspect of this for most players. And then another thing is it's kind of ruining the clan war atmosphere, because knowing that you're going into a war and it's probably going to be perfect, every time we match and I look at a clan and I see champion 3 or higher, I just assume it's going to be perfect on both sides, and you've already kind of accepted that and you don't really try hard. That's just kind of how it is, right? But what this has forced some clans to do is smurf in a way, right? There's like smurfing going on in Clash of Clans, so not only are the clans being ruined because it's not competitive anymore for the clans that are matching head-to-head the high-end clans, because nobody's going to win, you're causing clans to have to engineer wars and include lower town halls on purpose to match against lower league clans so that they can win and maximize the amount of ores that they get. And that's going to be frustrating, just like it would be for being smurfed on like any other game, right? It's not fun to just get whomped by somebody who's really good at the game as kind of maybe a novice or a casual player in the game. So it's ruined the wars for a lot of people that way as well. And then I would like to talk about in the next, I'll include another attack here, but I'd like to talk about maybe some ideas that I've had that I think would solve the issues, make it the same for the casual players and how they can have fun, but also make it more fun for the try-hard players as well. I think that there's a few things that Supercell could do that would make the clan wars a lot better. One, maybe increase the amount of ores that you get for ties, make it maybe in between a loss and a victory. That way, at least you feel like it's a little bit better than a loss. Two would maybe be to change the parameters for what a tie is. Maybe if it's a perfect war, like one that I just showed you, 135 to 135, maybe you go on time after that. And then after that, you go on maybe another thing and then make ties a lot harder to achieve so that they're a little bit more rare. That might force people to actually try hard in the wars too, because then they'd have to 3-star faster in order to make the average attack time go up. Another thing might be to include like an optional hard mode option for involving yourself in a clan war. And I know that almost everybody would rather have a normal mode war than a hard mode war, just because the majority of the player base doesn't care to try hard and get sweaty and all that, right? But if you included like, if you win in hard mode, you get like 50% more ores or something like that. I guarantee you that a lot of people would gravitate towards hard mode wars if you gave that option. And I would rather, as like a co-leader of a clan, I would rather have my search time be 2 or 3 hours and match in a hard mode war where I have a chance to actually win the war instead of tie, than have a match found in a half an hour and then just know that it's going to be a tie and I'm going to get my 6-star ore and that's going to be it. So I think changing the parameters. I think also another thing they could do would be to lower the amount of attacks that you have in a war. Would be back to 1, right? If everybody only had 1 attack in a war, you would almost never see a perfect war, because not everybody gets a perfect hit every time. As long as the hit rates are 50%, you're gonna have a perfect war on both sides, right? Because then everybody gets to hit twice. So if you lowered the amount of attacks, maybe you could do like a 12-hour preparation day and a 12-hour war day, maybe another option or something, right? And then have everybody only hit once. I guarantee you that would make sure that a lot of the ties there might still be some ties and stuff in the smaller wars, but anything over like 20v20, I think it would still be pretty rare at that point. But those are some of the things that I've thought of. I really hope that with the new defenses or heroes or whatever it is that they end up introducing, and we don't know yet, right? Nothing's been confirmed in Town Hall 17. I really hope that changes the way that clan wars are had, or at least the resources that you can get ore-wise from the clan wars, because right now players feel like they're falling behind. They feel like there's more ores to be had than they can get, and they're falling further and further behind, which is the truth, especially with starry ore. That's like the bottleneck, right? So hopefully when Town Hall 17 comes out, I do have hope, because they did talk about addressing some of those things in that Q&A recently. So I hope that things get better. Legend League specifically is something that they talked about changing a little bit. Clan Wars is something I hope that they're going to change a little bit. And we'll see. Hopefully we can get the game to a point where everybody likes it, and not just the try-hard players or not just the casual players. Well, that about wraps my thoughts up on the current situation. Now, I'm not saying that I hate the clan war system now and I don't have as much fun now as I used to. I think there's pros and cons to it, but I think that there are some improvements that would be rather simple to make that would make it more enjoyable for everybody, especially surrounding the ores. I don't think that we should make the game hard enough to where only the tryhard people like it, and they really like the people that really just enjoy not tripling every time, because I want the casual players to have fun too, right? The casual players are a much larger percentage of the player base than the tryhard players, so it's obviously in Supercell's best interest to make those players happy, but I think there's a way that we could make everybody happier. So that's what my goal is with this video. Hopefully we can bring some attention and they can make some changes, because I just really have been pretty disinterested in trying in the clan wars recently, because they've all been like this, just a tie basically every time. But that'll do it. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you agree with my thoughts. If you don't, let me know in the comments, and we'll see you guys next video.